All right, here we are. 268 players entered this event yesterday morning. 2 are left. Living End versus 4-color Omnath Blink. We've got Jonathan Hobbs versus Piper Powell. First place to the winner, $4,000, and an invite to the Energy year-long championship in December. Anurag Das is here with me. Let's go ahead and bring up the deck list and see what we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's something of a grudge match. I mean, because we saw in the top 8 earlier today, 4-color against Living End, and in game 1, Jonathan Hobbs was able to take the win here against this Living End deck. You can see the general strategy: Shardless Agent, Violent Outburst into Living End, bring back a lot of creatures that you've cycled into the graveyard. Notably, though, 2 Endurance in the main deck for this list, 4 Force and Negations. Jonathan was on the play in the quarters. Now, for game 1, the script will get flipped as Piper was the #1 seed going into this top 8. So, what's interesting here is that if we take a look at Jonathan's list too, you'll see there are a play set of copies of Teferi. Being on the play, Jonathan was able to, put Teferi into play on turn 3, and that was the game.
Mm-hmm.
All the way around this time, we'll probably see Shardless Agent or Violent Outburst come into play before the Teferi. So
Right.
I think the dynamic of the match will be completely flipped upside its head, and I'm excited.
Yeah, so am I. And Piper, #1 seed, Hobbs, #2 seed. Neither of these players lost in the tournament. They actually drew with each other in round 8 as the 2 undefeated players. So, yeah, if we can get Hobbs' deck list up there. Now, this is going to be okay. Let's go to Hobbs' list. All right, the players are ready to go. But I want to point out an important difference compared to last round that Piper had to face the Chalice of the Void's main deck. Now they're in the board.
Right.
So I feel like it's being on the play, but also with not having to deal with the Chalices yet. I think Piper winning game 1 is key to her chances to win the match and the tournament. So let's go ahead and give the players a go ahead and get things rolling.
Right. And so as the players are going to start this game here, a couple things to note. First of all, is that in game 1, the 4-color list has a lot less interaction. We saw that Jonathan mulligan very aggressively against Living in the first time around. You only have the 4 counterspells, the Teferis, and I think there might be Eladrami's calls, 2 copies, and then 1 endurance. So that's about all you're really working with here, compared to the blue-white deck that had like the main deck chalices, the Archmage's Charm, just a lot more interaction here. So it'll be a little bit exciting to see how the first few turns play out here. That's really going to set the pace on the context for, when Piper decides to combo off
Mm-hmm.
and
Well,
how.
yeah, and that Ragavan, the Ragavan plus treasure can change the pacing as it enables potentially Teferi to come out on turn 2, uh, stealing the momentum from Piper. So we'll see. Okay, here's a grief.
I like this a lot too, right? This is the realizing that the turn 3 play might be there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just grief now
Ooh,
and try to take the Teferi, or I guess in this case, maybe the Eladomri's call here.
yeah,
Is
I
that
think. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's the call. Yep, and that is the choice. Don't want nasty endurance in hand for Hobbs.
And I was gonna say something about pre-board versus post-board, and like the amount of like answers you keep for with to respect the matchup, right? So here, I think it's totally fine to just have the Elanomries call and hope that that's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I think that's fine is because you don't have that high saturation of answers in your pre-board deck, right? Your
Right.
main deck, or rather, I guess, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is a fine keep. Post board, I do kind of expect to see Jonathan mulligan aggressively for that second piece in the hand, so that you're not just cold to something like grief into combo. You have to just expect that your opponent will have a decent amount of interaction to push their combo through.
Right, and wow. So Ragavan looks like it's being returned to hand, so this may be a Colossal Sky Turtle here, as I'm not sure what other interaction Piper would have at this point in the game, and it would put Sky Turtle in the graveyard, which is a great place for it to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually one of the best, because like I mean, the Living End deck is a combo deck. It doesn't actually have removal answers, so being able to line up one of your 2 Sky Turtles with literally one of the scariest 1-mana threats ever printed in the history of Magic feels good, man.
Mhm.
That's all I'm gonna say. It's a good
Yeah.
feeling.
All right, so Hobbs is going to redeploy and then play a tap land. And so, does Piper have a Cascade spell here? If she does, well, game one is looking pretty one-sided, but I'm not sure it's there.
I didn't get a good glimpse of the hand either. I don't think it's there either, but I see Force of Negation and a couple blue cards. None of those blue cards rhymed with Shardless. Wait, does ethical question, Joe? Does Shardless Agent rhyme with Shardless Agent, like by the book? Asking for future jokes.
I would I would say no. I'd say you're kind of defeating the purpose of a rhyme if you just say the same card again. All right, so here's Ragavan attacking in. This time connects. Okay, flips the land. The Piper definitely does not want.
Yeah.
And Expressive Iteration. I expect this will get hardcast forced. As game one, there's not a whole lot else. Okay, it's going to be Cycle instead, looking for Enabler. That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this Expressive Iteration. I would have considered forcing it just because the hand is relatively clear right now of interaction, and Iteration could find something that you can't counter with Force of Negation. For example, like if you draw into Shardless Agent, you won't be able to protect that with Force and protect your living end with Force of Negation. So there's a world where maybe you just stop the control player from like digging into their answers rather than having a conditional answer for interaction.
Yeah, so Piper still not much going on. Ragavan attacks in. Finds another land. So all the Cascade spells are still in the deck.
Very good. I mean, if this is exactly what you want from Piper's side, right? You want Ragavan to not hit anything remotely castable. Now, here's the thing. Generally speaking, like you mentioned earlier, you're not going to really be able to steal too many cards from Piper's deck using the monkey. But now that we have 2 treasure tokens in play and likely a third one the next turn, suddenly they become a lot more castable.
Okay, there is an outburst in Piper's hand. There is a counterspell in Hobbs' hand. Now, does Piper have another blue card to go along with that force? If she does, this is still looking feasible. Here's a land. Here's the outburst.
Yep, slam the counterbalance. Sorry, ooh, that's a slip. Slam the counterspell with the swiftness. Back to the good days.
All right, Hobbs will fetch and then play the counterspell off of lands, keeping the treasures. Hobbs looking like the hand consists of Ragavan, a Solitude, and another card that I didn't get an eye on.
Piper, we know particularly exciting here.
There's a force negation. There is a blue card, Striped Riverwinder, put to good use, thrown into exile, and we may see something here.
I think the giveaway for why we would, because we've already, this is closer towards the end step now.
Right.
If Piper has the outburst, she would most definitely use it on upkeep if she did not have the blue card, right? Just to minimize opportunity to find extra counter spells and interaction and things like that.
Potentially, yeah. This did get the Coatl into play first, and Hobbs has a play back here. This could be pitch Solitude.
Yeah, so pitching Solitude here again, the way the interaction works, Solitude goes to the graveyard. Thanks to its evoke cost. The Ragavan and the what is it called? Ice-Fang Coatl will be deleted by the living end, but since the Solitude's already in the graveyard, it's going to come back and get to exile one of the creatures that Piper brings back into play.
Okay, so that Ragavan should now, yeah, okay, there we go. That Ragavan's exiled. Here's a Solitude. Here are Piper's cards. Grief will take down Ragavan, and Solitude will take down. I guess it actually can't take down Sky Turtle. Wow, that's significant.
Oh, because of Ward. Wait.
Oh, well, no, there are treasures. There are treasures. But Sky Turtle has Ward 2, I think. Maybe we can pop that up, Colossal Sky Turtle.
I'll tell you right now, it has Ward. Nope, I won't tell you right now, actually. But yeah, that's kind of cool. Actually, interesting little rant here. I don't like the Ward mechanic slapped onto every single card.
All right, it is. So it does have Ward 2.
Yeah.
So Jonathan could have taken that out, decided to hold on to the treasures. I guess, well, we'll find out. Anyway, a whole bunch of damage comes across. Hobbs drops to 4. Can attack back with Solitude and go back to 7, which is still not a large total compared to the power of Piper's creatures.
You have Otawara to maybe bounce one of the creatures.
Yeah.
Notably, though, Grief is unblockable due to Menace, so the lone
Mhm.
Solitude here won't be enough.
Right. I mean, it can chump block Striped Riverwinder.
Mm-hmm. And we're actually 1 mana short of putting the Yorion into our hand and blinking the Solitude. Sorry, 1 mana short. Yeah, because we have Otawara in hand that we could put into play.
Yeah, that would. There's a Hallowed Fountain tapped. Okay, that's not going to amount to much. So, yeah, I mean, Hobbs did what he could here, and Piper didn't have everything rolled up instantaneously, but turn 2 went by and found the pieces. Here's a Waker of Waves. Looking to see if there's any more help, although I'm not sure it's needed, as Hobbs is dealing with quite a bit right now.
Yeah, it looks like we put a copy of Shardless Agent into the hand so that if this first assault is answered, the second one will be ready to charge in.
Okay, here comes everything. Otawara bounces Sky Turtle. So this now, if Hobbs is empty-handed, this can bounce Solitude, and that will be game. And that is what happens. So Piper Powell picks up game 1 of the finals. Okay, well,
crazy.
We said it's important for Piper to win game 1 because it's going to get harder. And well, that task is done. We'll go back and re-examine Hobbs' sideboard to see what he has access to. Before that, I want to mention that this is the finals of the modern event. If you're here early looking for the legacy coverage, it will begin. The tournament has already started. Legacy coverage will begin after whatever the current round is when the finals ends is completed. So if there's 5 minutes left around or probably 25 minutes left around, either way, we'll start the next round available to us once we're done with this. Game 2 of the finals. Jonathan Hobbs looking for answers. We know there's some there. Anurag, what do you think?
Yeah, so we talked about this earlier, but the 3 Endurances, slam dunk, those are going to come in. The 3 Chalice of the Voids, also slam dunks, going to come in. We saw a couple questionable choices that, you could justify either bringing in or not. So first one, obviously, Veil of Summer. We saw in game 3 of the quarterfinals, Hobbs chose to bring in the Veil of Summer and was aptly rewarded because it was able to counter, in quotes, a grief activation ability, trigger, whatever you want to call it. And then I guess Supreme Verdict could also be kind of interesting, but it's got its ups and downs.
Yeah, we want to emphasize that Hobbs valued the Veil of Summer so high, he didn't even keep a land. He just saw Veil of Summer and was like, all right, this will work. And drew the land on turn 2 and then was in the game. I mean, really, he kept a hand probably based on double endurance, but either way you want to tally it up, it was an impressive win in the top 8 for Hobbs in this matchup with Veil of Summer, a couple endurance, and no lands in game 3.
If I were like, I don't know, Van Gogh, here's how I would ping game 3. Same situation, all right? Hobbs keeps a no-lander with like some amount of interaction. That's it. And I want to just see if we can get the double down, the repeat, because that would be so sick if in game 3, that's how you won the entire tournament. You're just like, I know how this deck plays out. I know how this matchup plays out. I'm going to keep this crazy hand and I'm going to win. Just watch, I don't know.
So what you're saying is that if you were in Jonathan Hobbs' seat in game 3 of the finals, you'd like mull to 5 and then put the lands on the bottom and then just see if you can make do with what you got. I mean,
any believers in the chat, this is now when you need to shine. Yes, I know. Okay, obviously, like I could put some delegation to it, but like, yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
It was a convincing show in game 3 because he just drew the land off the top. Because I mean, if you know it's there, that's just good play.
It was impressive. It also, I mean, he mulled to 5 in the previous game. So Hobbs clearly is aware that there are important cards in this matchup, and he's willing to take mulligans in order to find them. And those important cards not even necessarily include mana to cast them, as Endurance and Chalice are free interaction for Piper's deck. Now, from Piper's side, it's really about just dealing with Hobbs's hate cards. She doesn't have to do anything different than what she did game 1. Just hold off the counters and the lock pieces, and the tournament may well end up in her hands.
Yeah, earlier I was really, talking up Ivan Espinoza, and I'm going to do the same for Piper. Piper is quite frankly one of the strongest players on the circuit, if not the strongest player. I mean, has so many top eights under her belt now that it's actually just crazy, right? So like I definitely expect just we've already seen today how well she has played, right?
Mhm.
More specifically, I'm talking about that turn 3 force of
I know
negation.
you are.
Yeah, that is the difference between like your good player and your great player, right? Like she knows the script, she knows how these matchups play out. I have lost to Hodor Time Baby online many, many times. I can personally vouch. This is gonna be crazy. And I think, like you mentioned, right? In this finals match, in game two, on the draw, a lot of things will change. And we're going to see maybe Piper is going to take more of a controlling route, not necessarily just like jamming, ASAP on turn three. We'll see the pace slow down. We know chalices are coming in, so I'd like to find one of our three foundation breakers. We know, there's a bevy over there, so like Teferi, for example, that we want to prepare for. Things like that, right? Slow, calculated, but meticulous and packing a punch. That's exactly what I expect to see going into this game too. I'm I'm going to give Hobbs's deck building a lot of credit here and say that at
Mhm.
least on the play for game two, I think he's going to be favored.
Yeah.
Uh, and if we get to a game three, then it gets a lot closer, and I'm not really sure. But for this game two, I think the name of the game is going to be try to find your griefs, try to find your force and negations and your violent outbursts, pressure their end step, pressure the four color blinks end step, and then try to untap and do some like fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
That's how I envision the game goes. When you play slowly, your goal is to maximize on mana, right? This is just how control mirrors in historically have been played out. Your opponent has 4 mana, you have 4 mana, right? How do you win in that situation? You pressure their end step, make them tap out on their turn. You
Mhm.
use your mana on their end step, then you get to untap and effectively double up, do things like that, right? That's just like basic theory, counter wars, that kind of stuff. If you play a lot of standard control, you sort of have an idea of what that is. And there are a lot of those elements in this matchup because it's like trying to punch holes in people's defenses to finally resolve one of your critical spells.
Okay, here we go. Piper Powell with a game in hand here. Jonathan Hobbs on the play in game two of the finals. Ragavan versus a striped Riverwinder cycling.
Okay. Yeah, and
And
Ragavan is like one of the best starts you can have, right? The mana generation from this card was enough to get it banned in one format. So like, I, yeah, it's pretty exciting. We could even see like the turn two Teferi just, and that could just be it. That could literally
Mhm.
just be the game right here.
It certainly could. Teferi slams the doors on a lot of the potential in Piper's deck. Looks like we got an abundant growth coming down.
And one thing to evidence too is that all of like Hobbs has shown massive respect for this matchup, very aggressively mulliganing, and I don't believe there was a mulligan this game. So if I was in the other side of the table, I would be absolutely terrified.
Yeah, it's concerning. We talked about this earlier. It's unlikely that Hobbs is going to keep a 7 in a sideboard game without some sort of hate piece, whether it's Endurance, Chalice, Teferi, Eladrami's Call. I mean, there's a lot to pick from. He came packed for the matchup, but also, like you said, it's an 80 card deck. There's no guarantee he's going to find multiples of them, even in looking at the number of cards. And Piper does start to develop here. Unlikely it could ever matter, but we did see a Living End deck that basically got stripped of mana earlier today. So Ragavan, conceivably, if it hits actual solid lands, may make a difference eventually. And here we get a look at Hobbs' hand.
Very interesting. So there's a Solitude, another Ragavan, an Endurance, and it appears 2 lands, and looks
Mhm.
like Endurance is already gone.
Yeah, not a green card for Endurance, but would be hard castable for without too much trouble for the rest of the game with the existence of the treasures and such. But I mean, this isn't. I mean, Hobbs did keep a hand with Endurance, makes sense, but this is already kind of devolved a little bit, and this doesn't look great anymore.
Yeah, this hand went from pretty good with the turn one Ragavan into, well, what do we have going here? How do I not die to like a turn three combo?
Hmm. Now, if there were a turn three combo here, Jonathan would get Endurance back from the graveyard, and Yorion comes into hand, not wasting any time here.
Yeah, makes sense. And to me, that sort of screams a little bit of weakness on the side of control things.
Sure.
But it's possible. It's possible that we still have something very powerful, like a counterspell. Those treasure tokens are somewhat deceptive. You know, there could be blue to cast a spell.
Yeah. Having the Yorion in hand does enable Solitude to find its way into the graveyard pre-Living End if that scenario presents itself, as there was no other white card that we're aware of. And yeah, I mean, there's some stuff in the graveyard. If Piper has, okay, Piper doesn't have red mana, but there is a Shardless Agent. So let's see. Hobbs, what is your mystery card? Endurance actually would not work currently.
Mm-hmm. After that Solitude top deck in the final turns of the semis, I'm really hoping this is a counterspell. One time, flip it over. Oh.
Well, Hobbs is going to make us wait. No, okay. Solitude, pitch Yorion. Solitude, take out Ragavan, gain a couple life. It's going to die anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Endurance plus Solitude, that is a more sizable creature base than the opponents of Living End have had most of the time. Grief takes down another Solitude. And so, okay, this has happened a couple times now where Living End resolves, the player gets set up, has a little bit of action, but still just has less on the board, and then because of the grief has no relevant cards in hand. So
yeah, I mean, from this position, I definitely think the Living End player is very favored, but because you know, I mean, you can set up this sort of, it's not like a full kill, if you will, but you've put yourself in a very advantageous position.
Right.
And despite that, you know, you could just draw. Was that a supreme verdict for the draw?
I don't know. I mean,
okay, because I'm saying you can still top deck out of these situations
right.
from the control side. So like, it's not over. Okay, it was
No.
not a supreme verdict. As
No, definitely not. But okay, so we're looking at potentially, is the attacker just Curator of Mysteries? I mean, that's a long way to go. Although having Curator in play, I mean, Piper still has a bunch of cards in hand. So any additionally cycling cards are ops instead of just cyclers. So that's a nice bonus provided by the Curator, as well as being a 4-power flyer.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a little bit tough because I mean, Ragavan, Solitude, these can't block in the air, and Endurance is a 3/4, so it loses in combat to the Sphinx, which means that, I mean, you get to punch in for some damage. Getting the life off of the Solitude trigger on the Ragavan may end up being relevant. The clock is not the fastest.
Okay, so Grief's going to come in as well. And this is going to allow Jonathan to trade his choice of Ragavan or Solitude for the Grief, as it could be teamed up on by the Endurance, if that's what he chooses to do.
Yeah. I think in this situation, I'd love to just trade my... Okay, wow, interesting.
All right, so it was Solitude that tunes up with Menace. I mean, the Grief does have Menace, but so Endurance and Solitude block there. And now are there 3 Solitudes in Jonathan's graveyard? So another Living End is looking pretty frightening now from Piper's perspective.
Yeah. I think this is it, right? This is like, you need to hope that this Living End gets there.
Yeah. Now the Striped Riverwinder can attack as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Piper still with a pile of cards in hand, a mystical dispute among them. And Hobbs not out of this by any stretch and has some time.
Yeah. This is it. If you're watching right now, show your support for the player you want to win. Cobbs for Hobbs, Vipers for Piper. I need to see them in the chat. Ice-Fang Coatl is a clutch draw. Doesn't have Death Touch just yet.
Right. Does not have Death Touch. And the mystical dispute is somewhat hindered by the 2 treasures still in play. Let's see. I mean, Piper, so many cards. It's got to be intimidating for Hobbs.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I mean, maybe there's another. You can maybe assume that there's another way to get Living End in the hand, but still after that, there's like 3 extra unknown cards, maybe 4 extra unknown cards.
Yeah. If Piper's going to Living End, she's going to need to find Endurance first for Jonathan's graveyard with those 3 Solitudes in there.
Yeah. And I almost wonder, do you even keep Endurance in post-board games?
I don't know. I mean, we did see, the principle of using it on yourself to shuffle living ends back in the deck. So maybe, but okay, here we do have Striped Riverwinder. Now it is able to attack in. We're going to see a double block on the Curator.
That was a clutch ice. Now, the more I think about it, the way that it impacts the
Uh-huh.
blocks here is kind of huge.
Yep. Oh, this would be a bad time to have a transmission problem. I'm still here. Onark's still here. Okay. Hopefully we're still broadcasting. I don't know what that was exactly, but Endurance has died.
3 cards in hand here for Jonathan, and I don't know a single one. Wait, no, I'm just kidding. Is that an Omnath?
It is 1, 2, 3, 4. Mystical Dispute can catch that one.
Ooh, that's
Wow.
big.
Yes, it is.
That's big.
All right. I believe Piper has an Otawara and a Foundation Breaker, so that's not going to amount to a whole lot. And now Hobbs is maybe going to consider attacking with Ragavan here.
Yeah, but the
And
Shardless Agent just blocks, so
yeah.
I can definitely stomach not doing it. I mean, like, I think that might be another backdoor out, which is like somehow kill the Shardless Agent, sack with Ragavan, and get like a blocker for the Stripe Winder. But
I mean, Hobbs is only 1 mana short of being able. Actually, if Ragavan connected, Hobbs would have 7 mana. He could cast Striped Riverwinder off of Piper's deck to be able to block the one that she's got in play.
yeah.
All right. Maybe a little far fetched. Does Foundation Breaker come here just as an attacker and kill a treasure? No.
I wouldn't mind it. I'll be very honest.
Yeah, I maybe it's tough to commit when you know there's 3 chalices in the deck, but I guess it could kill the Abundant Growth. That doesn't amount to
See,
a whole
here's the
lot
thing.
right now.
I feel I'm just like almost so certain there was a supreme verdict. It looked. I don't know. My Azorius sense is tingling, Joe. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, if there was one and Hobbs chose to play Ragavan instead, that would be somewhat
There
surprising.
it is. It's
Oh
there.
my gosh.
He's just so smart. What? Wait, actually,
I mean, he does have more chump blockers, so he can wait. If a grief came off, this would be horrifying, though.
that's the. Hobbs here is playing a very dangerous game. Oh my god! I would have, and I'm pretty sure he peeled it the turn where he played the Ragavan too. I would have just windmill. I would have hit the table so hard, my hand would be in pain. Like that supreme verdict, the patience is, it's
Wow.
incredible until the grief comes into play. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Okay. So looking at another Striped Riverwinder attack. I imagine there's a chump block from Ragavan. Okay. This is something else.
At 8 life, now
Yeah.
I'm starting to think just like watch Hobbs. Is Hobbs Hollywooding here just a little bit, like posture, things like that. Like I've only got 2 cards, shuffle, 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 shuffle.
All right, draws a land there. Piper doesn't commit anything else to the board. Yeah, maybe he's waiting for Piper to hardcast another creature.
I think so. Yeah, like try to get some value.
He certainly is. Okay, now what's going on? We're gonna slow down in.
May still be in the end step here before the untap.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, and the crazy part too is just that Living End no longer feels like a valid
Right.
spell to cast because there's 3 Solitudes in the graveyard.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is not at this point. Piper with a whole pile of cards. Double attack in. Now the Ragavan's gone. Okay, chump block there. 2 damage comes across. Hobbs now facing lethal, but we know that he is pretending
Yeah,
to be
it is
vulnerable.
you could see just like on that draw step, he's like, all right, fine, and like the dust like settles off, and he's like,
It's like, oh, look what I drew off the top. What are you gonna do, Piper?
Very interesting decision to sandbag it, and this is a moment where like I wish someone would like do analysis on this and just figure out like what's the reasoning to slow roll the
I mean,
supreme
it is
verdict.
dangerous. He took a lot of damage, and now something like subtlety is just a 2-turn clock.
Yeah, no, I guess one reason that you feel a little bit safer is that first grief that came down pitched a grief, so the likelihood of there being the 3rd or 4th grief kind of slim. Very possible, but math, I guess.
Yeah, interesting stuff. All right, well, Piper is giving this some thought.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe considering Otawara bouncing either Striped Riverwinder or Shardless Agent. It looks like it's going to be Waker of Waves, but that's 1 mana short of being able to be hard cast. I believe Waker costs 7. So tough choice there too. There it is.
Is there a world where we could also bounce the Riverwinder with like a Sky Turtle or something if we
Sure.
I wonder how many cards we actually have. Okay, it looks like something's happening.
It
Yeah,
is
there it is.
Otawara. Okay, Otawara bounce Striped Riverwinder. Hobbs is like, okay, let me make sure that I can target your own stuff because I believe Boseju cannot.
It cannot, no.
Yeah, but Otawara can. All right. So after all that, Supreme Verdict kills a Shardless Agent.
Oh no. That's I mean, I guess I've had worse verdicts before, but
All right. So Hobbs is like, okay, if you cast Living End right now, how much trouble am I in? And the answer is probably not that much.
yeah. In fact, I think it's almost to the point where does Hobbs like want like Ragavan off the top, steal a Living End, and then suspend it, and then I don't know if you're allowed to suspend cards you steal off Ragavan, but I don't think you are.
I don't think that's very likely either. Piper may not have a 7th land, which is actually kind of a beating because she has multiple 7 drops in hand. There's 2 land right, or sorry, 1 land in Foundation Breaker.
This is just like I feel like we're at like the end of Rocky or something, and like both players have gone through like 10 rounds, and now it's just like it's a battle of endurance, like one punch, just to see who can survive.
Oh my gosh. All right. Hobbs drops to 5. Foundation Breaker in play. 1 treasure down. Mystical Dispute. Let's see. How many lands does Hobbs have? Looks like 6, I think. And there is. Okay. Boseju takes out Steam Vents. I believe Ragavan did his Steam Vents this game on turn 2?
It may have, but I'm also kind of interested in. I think this is one of those weird situations where we're not supposed to Boseju because we might just need that 7th land.
Maybe, but Piper might need it also. If Piper can't find a land here, this is going to keep the Striped Riverwinder in Piper's hand. There aren't any more lands to fetch. So once again, we're seeing Boseju. Well, cripple would not be the right word this time, but certainly hurt. Oh, that was the 4th Solitude.
Wow. Whew. All right. More. I want more.
My goodness.
Back and forth.
Right, so how many lands does Hobbs have? I just counted and forgot.
6.
Yeah, 6 plus a treasure. You're right. So if Hobbs passes the turn and tries to flash in Solitude, Piper can dispute it. So is he even going to play it on the Foundation Breaker or wait for something better?
That's a really good point.
Oh, he
and there's
passes.
the untap.
Yeah. I mean, Striper Riverwinder, if Piper finds some other mana source, is not targetable anyway.
Right.
So certainly Hobbs doesn't need to wait for that. And here's Foundation Breaker in for 2. Connects. Hops down to 3.
Really just taking it. That's crazy.
Well, if he's going to pass the turn, I think he has to take it because
Yeah.
anything Piper was going to cast would be second main anyway. There's Cycle Architects of Will. 18-3, but this one doesn't seem quite as over as some of the other games today. Here's another Foundation Breaker.
2 draws. Okay, now I think you just have to play.
Yeah, you have to. And now the Solitude will get in there as Dispute. Not enough mana left for Piper. Asking which one. All right.
Probably the one that can block just in case I want to attack.
Well, it probably does. He gains more than he loses on the exchange.
Is that called winning the race?
I think so.
All right, Abundant Growth. What did you draw? I want to know. Oh, it looks like 2 lands. Okay. I mean, in all honesty, the lands are not bad just by virtue of there being that mystical dispute. They're also not great.
Yeah, I don't think we can underestimate how important that Boseju activation from Hobbs was, and not every player would have done that. And that has kept Piper from hardcasting Striped Riverwinder and Waker Waves over the last 2 turns, which would have dramatically changed over the way this game is playing out. And Hobbs might be dead already. And now the board is more or less even. Piper passes on the attack. Hobbs with his 4th Solitude in play. Maybe
More
not much.
lands.
Maybe not much in hand. There are more lands in Piper's deck. They're just not fetchable lands.
Right. Okay, cycling the street right here, going down to 13. This is like the moment, like it's like one of those Dragon Ball Z moments where all you just have to do is like scream louder than the other person, and I'm here for it. Like there's absolutely nothing going. Oh, cycled the Riverwinder. Interesting.
Yeah, well, if now that all the fetch lands are shut off from being able to turn it on, Piper actually has multiples in hand anyway.
Okay.
Here's a Grief
Got
pitching a
him.
Living End, misses.
Just gotta scream louder. That's all.
I
You
don't
gotta
know.
want it more.
Boy, is there? Not sure what all Piper's cards are. I think anything red is uncastable. I think there's at least one.
There's at least
Violent
one outburst.
Yeah.
Oh, so interesting. Does this mean that? Well, okay, so there are still red sources. I wouldn't say uncastable.
Right. That's true.
Fire Bluff Canal is the other red source,
Yeah.
but you cannot tutor it up with Boseju because it does not have a land type, basic land type.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Subtlety into play. 3/3 flyer with flash. Come into play effect. Irrelevant and in for 3. This will force Hobbs to find an answer or trade off Solitude for the Foundation Breaker.
Jeez. Crazy game.
Yeah. Mystical Dispute now pretty much dead as Hobbs has what,
Infinite mana.
8
Yeah,
mana?
8.
Yeah.
Right,
Attack
swing
force,
in.
block. All right. Well, that buys Hobbs an extra turn.
I need to look at Hobbs' deck list because I just don't know.
I mean,
how do we even handle this 3/3 flyer?
Yeah, and keep in mind, yeah, right. I mean, all 4 Solitudes are gone. There are certainly now meaningless cards like Chalice of the Void that could be drawn. I guess Teferi would be a good draw.
Okay. Teferi is pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like that we are sandbagging these lands here because if we do peel one of our Omnaths, that is
That's true.
Oh,
Whoa.
okay, Eladrami's called. That has to get Omnath here, right?
It could get Endurance. I suppose they can block, but yeah, Omnath seems pretty strong. There it is. 1, 2, 3. Oh no!
No!
Oh no!
These mystical disputes!
What did I just say? I said this thing is shut down for the turn, but Hobbs double spells, gets stuck.
The year is 20XX, Joe. It's turn 11. Days is live.
Oh wow!
Oh my goodness!
And could this be it? I mean, disputes have caught 2 Omnaths, and Hobbs has 1 turn left. Piper has a Sky Turtle in hand. Could Sky Turtle the Subtlety in response to Omnath and throw it back on top of the deck? And that would win the game, actually. So I'm not sure Omnath is even out here. And that's it. Piper Powell wins it. That was something else. Congratulations to Piper Powell, NRG 20K Modern Showdown victor.
So crazy. I mean, look, Magic, when you tell me that Living End is up against 4-color Blink, right? I would not guess that the end would just be draw a creature. All right, like pure limited action, just like 2/2 in the red zone, block with my lifelinker, this, that. Like that was insane. That was like down to the wire.
That was very cool, very close. Hobbs with a stream of Solitudes almost gets things under control. Congratulations to him for finishing second. But our winner, Piper Powell, with Living End hard casting creatures to win.